I was off to Christian college. While I was in public high school, I did summer missions. Like I went to Venezuela for summer. I went to Southern California, which doesn't sound like I suffered too much there. But really that was a very, very good summer of serving in churches and doing inner city ministry. The next year I went to the Navajo Indian Reservation, spent the summer there with one other missionary. So that was a pretty lonely summer. Then the next year I was supposed to go to Brazil. That one didn't work out. I got mono and hepatitis, and that kind of slowed me down. Then I went to college, went to Christian college. I successfully went to college for 6 years and graduated with no degree. I got married. As I started my life, I went to school for music. As I started my life, I decided I'd be a truck driver. That's what you go to college for 6 years. So my wife and I lived on the road for a while. All during this time, though, I found myself, obviously I love listening to music. Yeah, who doesn't? If you don't like listening to music, okay, we may not relate. But I really enjoy it. However, I probably spend half of my time not listening to music and listening to people speak. I don't force that on my wife too much. I do a little bit, but in that process, I ran across, I always like listening to prophecy stuff and whatever, whatever makes the Bible interesting. And so I listened a lot to Chuck Missler. It's not where I got started, but that's where I ended up. You probably never heard of Chuck Missler. He's not really associated with a denomination, although he did go through a time where he was tied to Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. Before I attended here, I attended Calvary Chapel. If I actually do get detailed for 11 months, I will go to Calvary Chapel because I already know the church, we know the people. But Chuck Missler teaches through the Bible from Genesis 1:1 through the end of Revelation. And it's very interesting to get taught verse by verse through the Bible. I probably listened to that whole series, which I can't imagine, it must be 600 messages. It's so many. I'll probably listen to it 3 or 4 times completely in certain books, which I really enjoy. I've listened to countless. Anyway, we're attending church here, and I think small group studies would be a good idea. I didn't really want to be up here trying to sell a small group to everybody that's sitting in the sanctuary here. So I just went to Pastor, and I said, hey, do you want to do a small group in my house? Just you and me? And he's like, sure. So we ended up going through the book of Jude. And you think, Jude, end of the New Testament, like 8 verses. That should be done in about a week. Well, it's a Chuck Missler study. Chuck Missler is unique. It's very in-depth, and probably took us 8 weeks to get through that. Was it worthwhile?
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah, that's how I feel. And so I was just sharing my interest with Pastor. So anyway, we get to talking like where we go next. Let's go to Genesis and work our way through. It'll only take a century. But it is a continuing learning program, right? So it seemed like a good idea. I am talking, this, just for a moment, I'm going to talk to myself. Apply it to yourself if you think it applies. I think that we're probably not supposed to be Sunday morning Christians only. We should be involved and be constant learning. So when I think about that, I think once you're saved, what's the most important thing? Well, the most important thing is to be saved. Once you get that locked in, what next? Well, we're given the Great Commission, right? I think that's probably the most important thing. I think that's what this whole book is about, is God's plan of salvation for us. The Great Commission is, what should we be doing with it now? I think back over my life, and I'm embarrassed by this. How many times have I shared salvation with unsaved people? Well, I can think back in my pride and think, oh yeah, I've done it quite a few times, but I'm 53. That's, so what? You can't do a few times when you're 53. I've been forced to sit in vehicles with guys, and then they may get the message forced on them because they're stuck with me in the vehicle. Maybe I'm the senior guy, and so they got to listen to what I'm going to listen to. That kind of thing. But I don't force it on people. We have conversations, and once I get to know people, then, it might steer that direction. So, just for a second, I know I'm long-winded. Just give me a few minutes, and I will cut out. I probably said more already than I should have, but I haven't gotten into what I'm supposed to. So the Great Commission. If you were going to witness to somebody, what would you say? It's kind of locked in our brains. We know I'm a sinner. Jesus died for me. He paid the penalty that I couldn't pay myself. I was stuck. I was circling the drain on my way to hell. And an opportunity came from the living God for somebody to take my place. So I understand all this in my head. But if you don't have a plan for the encounter with the unsaved person who is willing to hear, when you run into that and you don't have a plan, probably gonna waste it, miss the opportunity. So I am not gonna go through all this stuff. I wrote it all down. I did a couple things. I Googled Romans Road. Actually, the first thing I did was I came over and I looked at the tracks. And I thought, would I be comfortable passing a track to somebody? That may be the best thing. But for me, I get in conversations with people, and if I don't have this thing locked in my head, it's really, really hard to share from the heart. But I do believe that something like the Romans Road is probably the thing to do. I Googled it, Great Plan of Salvation. Google, who I don't trust, gave me the Plan of Salvation. Starting with John 3:16 and ending in Romans. Then I Googled the Romans Road, and I found this one. And then I looked in my Bible, which I have passed on to my son, and I had what I consider the plan of salvation. It's mainly the Romans Road, written out in the margins in my Bible, starting with page 1. This is where you go first. In a panic, this is what you do. We don't all walk around with our Bibles, so now Google might be your friend for the time being. That's the number one and most important thing, is that we share our faith, right? So we probably have to do that. I suggest a Bible reading program. If you don't have a Bible reading program, how are you going to know what's written in there? I'm not looking at anybody specific. I lived a long time being really, really bad at this one thing. I got this book. I'm supposed to know it. I'm responsible for it. Jesus died. wrote the whole thing down so that I could know it. It's my job to know it. We're not asked to be saved and sit in church. We're told to go out throughout all the nations spreading the gospel. So anyway, you got to know the word. Probably means reading it. I don't learn everything when I read it. That's why I also listen to other teachers. Personal prayer life. Man, if I struggle with anything, it's this one. The Bible reading thing, I can physically demand myself to read, and now I have myself on a 6-chapter-a-day reading program. Sounds like a lot, I know, because 20 years ago, I'd be like, 6 chapters a day? Are you kidding? I'd have a hard time doing more. But the personal prayer life, if you don't have a personal prayer life with Jesus, do you have a relationship with him? Does he look at it as a relationship? You gotta have that personal time spent in prayer. Mentoring. You have to mentor with somebody that knows more than you. So there's probably one person on the planet where somebody doesn't know more than him. You're not that person. You need to learn from somebody, right? That's why we come here and we trust Bobby to teach us from the Word, and we expect to learn. I have taken it one step further with the learning on the side, right? I went to a Christian college. I learned a lot from really, really, really good people that I really respect. One of our professors, we still support him as a missionary. He's fantastic. He's doing the things that I don't want to do. I don't want to go to Mongolia or China. Those places make me uncomfortable. I don't think their bathrooms look like ours. That would bother me, you know? So anyway, Chuck Missler. What's special about Chuck Missler? What's special about him is that he had a personal relationship with Jesus his whole life. A personal Bible study his whole life. The thing that we're supposed to do, he did. He worked in the private sector, very successful in the military. He was president of companies and chairman of boards and all those kinds of things. He was very successful. But he taught Bible study on the side as he got older. And that became his full-time gig, so to speak. Chuck, so what? Chuck teaches the Bible. So what? There's 1,000 people out there that teach the Bible. This is the thing I came up to say. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. You should see Pastor when he comes over for coffee and I catch him in the doorway and then he's stuck for an hour. Chuck has a better understanding of the Bible. His research is insane. If you go through a Chuck Missler Bible study, you will think, I never saw that before. I read through this thing I don't know how many times. I never saw that. I'm going to show you something real simple. Sherry wanted me to share one that was a little more complicated, but it took more time to print off, so I did not do that. This one's pretty simple, though. This comes from the genealogy. So we look at genealogies in the Bible and we're like, oh my goodness, skip this chapter. I don't want to read all those names. I don't do that. I force myself to mentally go through all the names. I don't know why, because it doesn't mean anything to me. However, people smarter than me do research and discover that names mean things. Not only do names mean things, but it also helps you determine timelines. I'm not going to talk about timelines at all. What do the names mean? Well, Adam, if you've heard this before, I'm sorry. Adam means man. Well, that makes sense. Seth means appointed. Enosh means mortal, frail, or miserable. shouldn't use that. Canaan means sorrow, dirge, or elegy. Mahalalel means the blessed or praise. Jared means shall come down. Enoch means teaching or commencement. Methuselah, the old guy. That's all we know about him, right? What is this one? To bring or to send forth. Lamech is despairing. And Noah, to bring relief or comfort. That's great. But if we put it all together, what does it mean? Man, let's just read the meanings of the names. Man is appointed, mortal, sorrow, the blessed God shall come down, teaching, his death shall bring the despairing comfort or rest. There is the gospel message in the genealogy in Genesis. If we do a study, if we spend time studying, learning from people that have spent so much more time than we have in the Bible, we'll come away with these little trinkets and we'll be like, are you telling me that Moses sneakily put in all this information about Jesus coming as our salvation in the Old Testament? Salvation message right there in the genealogy. I have taken too much time. My goal was to originally come and try to spark some interest in having a Bible study, small group Bible study, and get people more sold out, right? You get sold out, information builds interest, and the more interest, the more sold out you become. And that was my desire, right? And here I go, possibly leaving for 11 months. I'm sorry. I think that you guys could do this kind of study. But if you want to wait 11 months, I'll be back. Yeah, Pastor, it's all yours.